Well, raga, come state ragazzi? Today we're going to be looking at the Condizionale Passato, the past conditional. This is considered advanced Italian, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily harder than other things you've seen thus far in the language. We're going to be looking at my digital whiteboard today. I'm going to be doing a lot of things written by hand. I'm going to do a lot of writing by hand, rather. So yeah, without further ado, let's just take a look at our digital whiteboard. So what even is the condizionale passato? Let's just say, che cos'è? So what is the condizionale passato? This is when you want to say that you would have, and then insert whatever verb you want. I'm going to say done. So when you would have done, when you should have done. And the same goes for could. Could have done. Okay, could have done. And it could be anything. I could have done this, could have done that, should have done this, should have done that. The context obviously can change. So we're going to first take a look at how to say all of these things using the verb fatto, so using fare in its participio passato form. So let's first just explain what we have going on here grammatically speaking. We have our modal verbs, would, should, and could. These are called modal verbs. Then we have, let's put this in a different color. Let's do blue. We have. That is our, let's put this like this, modal verbs. That's going to be our auxiliary verb. Auxiliary verb. Awesome. And then let's put that in the nice color blue as well. And then we have what we call our main verb. So I'm going to put that down here. Main verb. That's the main action that we're dealing with, okay? This doesn't necessarily need to be highlighted, but purple looks kind of cool. Let's do that. All right, so this is our main verb. The reason why I do this is because I think it will help us as we're translating this into English, and also it just helps to kind of have a lay of the land, you know, just to kind of understand what's even going on here grammatically speaking. Now, here's the thing. In Italian, there is no word for would, okay? So no word, no standalone word, that is, for would in Italian. Instead, what you do is you just take any verb and put it in its conditional form. That's it. For should and could, we do have verbs that we use for those. We use dovere for should and potere for could. So let's also put that down here. However, we have should and could. We say dovere, and could we use potere in their conditional forms, okay? In the condizionale. And same thing for this, in the condizionale. Nice. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's take a look at how we do some conjugating here. So let's take a look at avere and essere first. Those are very important verbs. These are our auxiliary verbs. So now that we've covered the modal verbs in this part here and also this part here, now we can talk about our auxiliary verbs, okay? So let's do that. So avere and essere. Let's put these in blue just like we had the other auxiliary verbs before. Look at that, doing everything nicely coordinated here. I'm liking this a lot. Very nice, very nice. Oops, that's a word, not would. Beautiful. Okay. So now let's do avere and essere in the conditional. In the condizionale. These are going to be the condizionale presente verb forms, okay? So let's do first avere. Io avrei. Tu avresti. Lui, lei, avrebbe. Let's put the plurals over here. Noi avremmo, with two M's. With only one M, it's the future. Voi avreste. Loro avrebbero. Avrebbero. Perfetto. So this means I would have, you would have, he, she can also be for it, would have, we would have, you all would have, they would have. So that's what all of this means. So translation, all you have to do is just put in the subject pronoun, io, tu, lui, lei, and it's just would have. That's the translation for every single one of them. So let's do something in context, right? Let's put in some context here. Let's say I would have, how can I use would have? I avrei, I don't know how that actually could be used on its own because I always use it as an auxiliary. Let's just do another verb, okay? Because I don't like this on its own. It's best to use as an auxiliary. Let's just take something like parlare, okay? This is a nice little review of condizionale presente. Let's do that. Condizionale presente. Okay. So we have io parlerei. That means I would speak or I would talk. Tu parleresti. Lui, lei parlerebbe. Noi parleremmo. Oops. Yep, something's wrong there. Parleremmo. Ecco. Voi parlereste. E loro parlerebbero. Ecco. Okay. For example, let's put an example here. Parlerei l'italiano adesso, ma purtroppo non posso. Okay, what does this mean? I would speak Italian now, but unfortunately, I cannot. Maybe something's going on. There's some reason why you cannot. So I would speak Italian now, but, or however, unfortunately, I cannot. Okay. Is it the best context in the world? Maybe not. However, it at least gets to the point. If you want to say that you would do something in Italian, you just take the verb and put it in its condizionale form. Parlerei. Seeing as avere is used in many situations just as an auxiliary, we're just going to kind of keep it to that for now, okay? So let's now do the conjugation of essere in the condizionale. Okay. Essere. Very nice. Io sarei. Tu saresti. Lui. Lei sarebbe. Noi saremmo. 2 M's. Voi sareste. E loro sarebbero. Okay. So, this is also most commonly used as an auxiliary, so we're not going to put it in any different context, okay? Or maybe, yeah, you know what? Let's do it. Why not? This one you could. We could say, sarei molto felice se tu venissi alla festa. That's cool. I would be very happy if you came to the party. That's what this means. This is the periodo ipotetico, which we covered in a 3-part series here on the channel. I would be very happy if you came to the party. Awesome. And this would be the periodo ipotetico il secondo grado. So if you just want some reference, I'll put it in the description box below. Check out our video. It's episode 2 in the periodo ipotetico series. It's called the periodo ipotetico della possibilità. Possibilità. Fantastico. Okay. That'll be linked below. Awesome. Very nice. Great. So now let's get into how we do this in the compound past version. So the condizionale passato. Why am I spelling this so just horribly? I really, really hate that. Let's do this. Condizionale, ecco, passato. So this is going to be a compound verb form, meaning we need auxiliary verbs, which we were just covering here, right? We had essere as one of our auxiliary verbs. We have avere as our other. And if we go back to all the way at the top, see what we have here? We're going to have a modal verb, an auxiliary verb, and a main verb. As there is no word for would in Italian, there's only going to be 2 verbs when we're doing the past conditional with that. When we're doing should and could, dovere and potere, we're going to have 3. Just like we have in English here. We have 1, 2, 3 verbs. We're going to have that with should and could. Would won't have that, but this will make some sense in a moment. So let's scroll back down. Okay. Now, what we have to pay attention to is the main verb dictates which auxiliary you use. Okay, you use. So for example, if our main verb, the main focus of our sentence is fare, what auxiliary does that take? It takes avere. This is also known as a transitive verb. What is a transitive verb? This is a verb whose action passes directly. I hope I spelled that right. Directly. Yeah. Directly from the subject to the object. So for example, I do my homework. This is clearly a transitive verb because I am the subject. The verb is the action that I am doing. And what is going to receive this action of doing? Homework. So here we have the subject. Here we have the verb. And here we have the object. This is what we call a transitive verb. Transitive. Okay. If it is intransitive, that's a verb such as andare. Andare requires essere as its helping verb. Andare is intransitive. And what is that? It's just the opposite of transitive. So this is when an action does not pass directly. Action does not. That's a lazy S. Pass directly from the subject to the object. Okay. Because the way that I like to say it, if I tell you I go to Italy, I cannot just snap my fingers and make this happen like I do my homework, where I can just physically carry that out in front of you. I can't with go. I can go in many different ways. So we have I as the subject, go is the verb, and then Italy here would be the object. I cannot do something directly onto Italy as I can to my homework or when I'm eating a pizza or if I'm writing a letter, writing these notes, for example. So this, we have once again the subject, we have the verb, and we have the object. Okay? Now in Italian, the subject and the verb is often in one, so we just say vado in Italia. So the subject and the verb is built into one thing, just the verb. Vado, io vado. Okay, wonderful. So to go back to what we're talking about, these verbs here, let's make this a different color, these will dictate the main verb in our sentence. So if I would have done my homework, if I would have gone to Italy, that's going to dictate what auxiliary verb we are going to need. I believe I put the auxiliary verbs, no, in blue. Okay. Fantastico. Okay. And obviously that means we have to pay attention to gender and number agreement. But let's do fare in the condizionale passato, okay? So we're going to say would have done. So this is going to be, we need avere as the helping verb. So io avrei fatto. This means I would have done, okay? I would have done. And then just the subject is going to change, obviously, with each of these forms. So, tu avresti fatto. That means you would have done. And so on. We're going to finish, but we're just not going to use we're just not going to write in the translation. Avrebbe fatto, he, she, or it would have done. Noi avremmo fatto. Voi avreste fatto. Loro avrebbero fatto. Fantastico. Now, if I didn't want to say would have, how can I now say should have? Okay, should have done. Well, if you guys recall, we're just going to scroll back up to what we were doing earlier before. Let's go all the way back. Okay. Now, as there is no word for would, we do have words for should and could. We have dovere and potere. So if we want to say should, we're now going to conjugate dovere in the conditional. Okay? So let's go all the way back down real fast. Okay. Should have done. We're going to say io avrei dovuto fare. What we do is the auxiliary verb goes in the conditional. Okay. Just as we did with these up here. Io avrei fatto, avresti fatto, and so on. Dovuto, let's see if I could put that down here. There we go. So the modal verb goes in the past participle form. It is the participio passato form, which is just, you could also call it passato prossimo form, you know, if that helps make more sense for you. The main verb, unconjugated, which is really nice and easy, is unchanged. Let's call it that. Okay. Main verb is unchanged. So now, with this in mind, you could do any verb that is similar to this. If you want to say, I would have spoken, let's now say that. So, I would have spoken. Oh, sorry, I should have spoken. Let's say that instead. I should have. That's what we're talking about here. I should have spoken. We're going to take this very same situation that we've got going on right here. So you see this, we're going to use this as our formula, okay? Following everything we just did. Io avrei dovuto parlare. See that right there? Io avrei dovuto parlare. What changed? The main verb. That's it. Same thing though. Same formula. So let's finish. Let's just keep going. I think you guys have got the idea if we kept going with all the other forms, the to form, right? Tu avresti dovuto no, that's got to be a you. Dovuto, ecco, parlare. That is, you should have spoken. Lui, lei, he or she should have spoken, and so on. Now, what's it going to be with could? Same exact formula. Just change this. Change this piece here. So, I could have spoken. What's that going to be? Io avrei potuto parlare. I could have spoken. What changed here? The modal verb. Instead of should, we now have could. Cool, right? Now, what happens when our main verb requires essere? The translation will be the same in English, but the function of it in Italian will be different. For example, let's go back to andare, which requires essere as the auxiliary. Okay. So, I would say for I would have gone. Io sarei andato. Remember, with would, there's only two verbs. Io sarei andato, because there's no verb for would in Italian. There's no modal verb for would in Italian. I should have gone. Io sarei. Remember, the modal verb will go in the participio passato form, the past participle form. Io sarei dovuto andare. But with essere, we always have to be mindful of gender and number agreement, right? So if the person speaking is not male, we have to change that last letter. For example, lei sarebbe dovuta andare. She should have gone. With essere, you always have to do la concordanza, we call it. La concordanza. Gender and number agreement. What happens if it was noi? We should have gone. Noi saremmo how is it going to end if it's a plural? Dovuti andare. If it was just a group of girls, it would end in the letter I or E in Italiano. Let's say if it was a group of girls. So, voi ragazze. So we're talking about you girls. Voi ragazze sareste dovute andare. You girls should have gone. Pretty cool, right? Awesome. Now this is going to be the same exact thing when you're using potere. If I said voi ragazze sareste potute andare. That means you girls could have gone. Cool, right? So that is the basic sort of framework of how we use the condizionale passato. I'd like to put it in a couple of sentences because there are a few different ways, well, two main ways, let's say, that you could translate this into English. So let's just do just a few examples just to sort of bring everything together. and wrap up our main discussion for today. Let's use a color we haven't used. Nice bright green. Oh, that's nice. Cool. All right, so let's do some examples. Number 1. Let me do it first in English, okay? Let's say I would have seen the film, but let's say I would have seen the film, but I decided instead to go to a restaurant. Okay. I would have seen the film, but I decided instead to go to a restaurant. Cool. How can we translate this? Okay. I would have seen. So I need to say first, okay, seen is the main verb. That's the main action. What is that in Italian? Vedere. What does that require? Avere, as its auxiliary. And I'm saying would, which means there's only going to be 2 verbs because there's no verb for would, no translation, like a direct word for it in Italian. Okay, so I don't have to say io, so I'm just going to say sarei. Avrei. Avrei visto il film, ma ho deciso invece, or ho deciso invece di andare a un ristorante. A un ristorante. Okay. I would have seen the film, but I decided instead to go to a restaurant. Avrei visto. I would have seen. Avrei, oops. I want that to be a highlight. Avrei visto. Fantastico. Now, if I want to take this very same sentence and say, I should have seen and I could have seen, how do we do that? Let's do that. Just like this. So, I should have seen. That's going to be avrei dovuto vedere. Avrei dovuto vedere. Now, if I want to say I could have seen, how do we do that? You want to take a minute to guess? Avrei. What's the modal verb? Potere. That's going to be in the past. Potuto vedere. I could have seen. Nice. Let's do another example. Let's do number 2. Let's use a verb that uses essere. Let's use partire. That's a nice one. So let's say let's say you would have departed or left. You would have departed at 5 o'clock, but I know you had other plans, let's just say. Random, but it should work. Okay. The most important thing is you would have departed. So I say, okay, depart is partire. That requires essere. I'm using would. There's only going to be 2 verbs. No verb for would in Italian. So, saresti partito alle 5. Ma so che hai avuto altri piani. Okay, fantastico. So you would have departed. What about you should have departed? You should have departed. Okay, let's do that. So that's going to need dovere. Dovere will go in the past. Saresti, sorry. Saresti dovuto partire. And now we're going to say, you could have departed. Okay, you could have departed. Fantastico. This is going to be saresti potuto partire. Now, if I were talking to a female, I would say saresti dovuta partire. Saresti potuta partire. So let's show that one as well. You know how we can do that really simply? We're just going to put a slash. Okay. Oops, no, let's redo that. Hold on. Let's try that again. Okay, let's try that again. Let's just move this. Okay, fantastico. And we're going to move this guy too. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. So we're just going to put an A here, slash A, okay? Saresti dovuta partire, saresti potuta partire, if we're speaking to a female. Cool. So now that we did these two main examples that are really straightforward, I want to just up the level a little bit, okay? So let's just do to a slightly more advanced section right here, okay? Let's put a star. Let's try this. I knew you were coming. This is an additional way to translate the congiuntivo, this is another way to use the condizionale passato. When you are saying something like this, you were coming, you can say, sapevo che saresti venuto. You can absolutely say that. If I were speaking to a female, what happens here? This changes to an A, okay? Sapevo che saresti venuta. Just depends if you're talking to a male or female. So it's not only with the verbs that have potere and dovere. It's also the ones that just have two verbs and use would as the meaning. I knew you were coming. What can this also mean? I knew you would come. It can be both. This is something I really love. I love this additional use of the condizionale passato, the way that we can speak. It's really, really nice. Can you also say, sapevo che tu venissi? Yes. This is acceptable as well, because when we begin with saying sapevo che, oh wait, sapevo che, no, io so che. You wouldn't have to. Sapevo che tu venivi. Here you wouldn't need the congiuntivo actually, so this is not a good example. But if I said non, ecco, non sapevo se tu venissi. Mamma mia. There we go. Non sapevo se tu venissi. I didn't know if you were coming. You could do that as well. I didn't know if you were coming. Ecco. So this is a pretty cool part of using congiuntivo and using condizionale together. But the main point I really just wanted to drive home was this right here. I knew you were coming, sapevo che saresti venuto. Very, very commonly said. And I think it helps give a little bit more nuance to what could be a nuanced way of speaking in Italian. Yeah, non sapevo se tu venissi. I didn't know if you were coming. Non sapevo se tu saresti venuto. You could also say that too. That works as well. Non sapevo. Non sapevo. No, you can't. Non sapevo se saresti. No, I don't think you can use. Ooh, that gets into something really cool. All right, so that's gonna be for another time. But I just wanted to sort of leave this here as something we'll get to. Yeah, I don't believe you can use se with the condizionale. No, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. But we'll get to that. We'll get to this. We'll get to that. We're getting there. All right, guys, cool. So that's going to be everything for today's video. Hope you found it useful and helpful writing everything out. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments section, and be sure to check out Grammar Basics 6 to see another version of what we covered today, just in the present. And yeah, that's going to be it. Always remember to spread the love, guys, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Va bene? Alla prossima, ragazzi. Ciao!